Hey, you think I could record the intro this time?
No. A hooded madman stalks the lovers' lanes of Texarkana in this quote-unquote fact-based account of a 1946 killing spree.
It's the town that dreaded Sundown.
Silence!
Sorry.
Welcome, class, to Ghoul School. Unfortunately, Professor Hector Fleshington has set sail upon a sea of madness unfathomable to mortal men. We will miss him, but he has moved on. So, please give a warm welcome to your substitutes.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another period at the Ghoul School. I am one of your three hosts, Brian Salamander Stork.
Brian, this is not gonna work.
What?
Brian, are you?
No, it's
what's
fine.
wrong?
It's good. Say your names.
What's going on, Brian? Are you okay?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I don't want to introduce myself until I know that you're okay.
I'm just it's been a gray few days here in good old the Big Apple. And
Good old the Big Apple.
everybody calls it that. Everybody says it all day, all the time on the
Yeah.
streets. And
But
I haven't been on the streets. I haven't been on the streets in a good long while, and it's.
When was the last time you left your bedroom?
Man, in this economy, I don't know, but it's just been a real rough, kind of gray period of time. So I'm hoping I got that January blues, and I'm hoping what might chase it away is whatever today's topic might be.
Anyway, I'm your second host, Nolan, not a detective Vinoy.
So what do you think the topic is going to be today, guys? You think it'll be something fun and kind of goofy and maybe a little, like we did the Muppets a couple weeks ago?
We have
and
a
that was
third
fun.
host, Brian.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm really uncomfortable with the energy you've established. And I'm Caroline, crime fighter knight.
So what are we doing this week, Nolan?
So what we're doing this week, I'm very excited about it. This is a
Something
new
really happy and joyful.
This is going to be a new series. We have a new series idea where every once in a while we're going to choose horror movies, thrillers that were based on a true story, and we're going to break them down as we normally would, but we're also going to bring in the real world history of the films into our breakdown.
So we're talking
This
about.
counts as your history
What's that-
credit
what's that
for
sound?
your goal.
Oh, that's just the ambulance carrying off another elderly dead person, probably from the
my
apartment
God,
next door.
Brian!
But so, what is it we're talking about? We're talking about real murders today.
So we're gonna talk about a movie called The Town That Dreaded Sundown. And now before I get into what a little bit of this, the log line and what this movie is based on, what do y'all think a movie titled from 1976? A movie titled The Town That Dreaded Sundown. What do you think that's about? Give us some time.
I'll tell you what it's.
With Brian's energy.
I'll tell you what it's about. The ambulance is pulling up outside. The ambulance is pulling up outside, but I'm just gonna go right over that, and I'm gonna talk about what I think So, what's it called again?
The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
The Town That Dreaded
tell you what it's
Sundown.
about.
So everybody knows. You guys have seen Footloose, right?
Oh yeah.
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 It's basically that, except the town is super against his dancing shenanigans, and he only does it at night. So
Oh yeah.
when
You're
the
like,
sun,
the sun's going down. Here comes that dancing hooligan.
when the sun goes down, the tap shoes come out.
Dude, that's how I am.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is that how you are?
Yeah.
Can you give some background on that claim?
Secretly. No.
Secret.
I refuse.
That was like that David
I used to
Lynch
tap
meme.
dance, and my tap dance classes were usually at 6 p.m.
My dark
Which in the winter is sundown.
tap secret.
Which is only sometimes after sundown.
That's true.
I think this movie is about a whole town of people who have seasonal depression. So they all are like, oh shit, it's the middle of winter. It's getting dark at 5 p.m. What the hell are we all supposed to do? And it's actually a really wholesome story about how they all band together as a community to support each other through their tough times.
Yeah. Have you seen Footloose? It's
Yes.
It's basically Footloose, but they're sad.
Yeah, you both described Footloose, but in different ways.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's cool. What the movie actually is about, so
I'm terrified.
the log line, the story of a hooded berserk killer who terrorized the border town of Texarkana, Arkansas in 1946, leaving no less than five murder victims in his wake. He was never caught. Based on one of America's most baffling murder cases. Directed by a guy named Charles B. Pierce, who also did a movie called The Legend of Boggy Creek, which we watched the trailer for way back in...
We did. I was like, I know this name.
What was
And
this
it's-
one? Buggy Creek?
It's kind of like a fake documentary about the Fook monster, who is a Bigfoot type creature that has been sighted in and around Fook, Arkansas. I think that's how you pronounce that.
I remember the trailer was very confusing.
The trailer actually is kind of cool. And so he took a little bit of that faux documentary style and brought it to this movie. This movie is to get into a little bit of the based on a true story series that we're going for here. This movie is based on loosely on a series of murders committed in Texarkana in 1946, where a masked man referred to as the Phantom Killer or the Phantom Slayer attacked 4 couples in secluded areas, killing 5. These attacks have been dubbed the Texarkana Moonlight Murders. The tagline for this movie is, "The story you're about to see is entirely true.
Okay.
Where it happened and how it happened. Only the names have been changed." Which is just not true at all. But
Yeah, I was about to say that. Never have I believed a story to be so false than them saying it is exactly how it happened.
whenever someone starts a story with like, "Look, this all is true, I promise," none of it's true.
Most
I
horror
haven't
movies,
changed any of it.
most horror movies that are based on a true story at least have the decency to be like, look, it's based. It's not.
It's still a movie.
loose, okay.
Right.
We'll be the
right.
first to admit. Yeah.
Like, y'all know about the movie The Strangers?
Yeah.
I think so.
We'll cover this eventually. The trailer claims it is based on true events. The true events that it is based on is the director Brian Bertino had a dream that this event happened to him.
Oh, fuck's
I mean,
So-
technically, that is based off of something that happened in real life.
Legally, yeah, you could say, I guess it happened. But yeah, you catch my drift. You can play real fast and loose with the idea of based on a true story.
I do find this
Now-
idea really interesting of going into based on a true story stories, because this seems, the closer it is, the more disrespectful it feels. But the further it is, the more disrespectful it feels. So I wonder in which direction, is the best way to go when you're making a horror movie based off of true events.
I think
we had a whole unit in Dale Pollock's film ethics class about how to do a movie based on a true story in a good way and in a bad way, and we watched a bunch of them and we were like, oh shit.
Yeah.
If you're really close to it and you fuck up one little detail, that detail becomes the thing that everybody's pissed off about. But
Yeah.
if you're like kind of vague about it, it's sometimes better.
I think deciding to make a horror movie that's based on a true story is a very dangerous game.
Yeah,
Because
it's
you are then-
inherently
You're exploiting a true event that is often traumatic for a visceral thing for other people when it actually is
It's
something
like,
awful.
isn't this trauma so scary, guys?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
yeah.
Like Zodiac is just attempting to recount true events accurately and dramatically, not necessarily trying to scare you with it.
So I'll be interested to see where this falls on that spectrum.
Yeah, we're going to find out. I saw this movie a long time ago, and I think I was like half asleep, so...
Well, now it's time for us to solve the case of
I don't think we're gonna
Phantom
solve it.
Menace.
We're going to
I don't
solve
think
the
we're gonna
case
solve
of
the
the
case.
Phantom
Wait.
Menace.
What was
Sheev
his
Palpatine
name?
did
What
it.
was-
Who
what was
is
he
the
called?
Sith Lord behind the recent events?
Wait, he was called the Phantom something, wasn't it? The Phantom Menace?
Was it
Yeah.
just the Phantom Killer?
Menace. The Phantom
What-
Killer slash the Phantom Slayer, either
All right.
one.
Also, and I'm not gonna. I mean, obviously, we're not gonna make fun of the actual true events, but I feel like most murders happen at night. I don't know if calling someone specifically
Yeah.
the night murderer seems a little bit. I don't like it's.
It's the Nightman from It's Always
It's
Sunny.
like he's the killer who doesn't do it in broad daylight. In
Yeah,
the middle of the
one of
street.
those.
Anyway,
Okay, so we're gonna watch a movie that definitely has Darth Maul in it. See you
Yep, yep, yep.
later.
woo.
Take it away, Spooky Dark Spell.
So, you know how we were talking about, like, how there's kind of a spectrum between being so close to the source material that it's offensive and being so far from the source material, from the actual real events, that it's offensive? Mm-hmm. This was both?
There's a third option.
There's a third option, which is both.
Yeah. This was
It was
offensive
both.
in every direction.
Yeah.
And it was offensive. It was offensive, but also it was so slavish to the real events, yet not slavish at all, that it was boring as. It was also boring as fuck.
It was probably one of the more boring movies I've ever watched. After I watched it, I literally went to go tell my mom goodnight because I'm a good child, and I said, I just watched a movie where boring white men talked to each other for basically an hour and a half and nothing happened.
Yeah, it was
and
a good long
about
while.
they talk about stuff that should be interesting very boringly.
Yes.
Yeah, and this was, what year did this come out, Nolan?
76.
76. This feels like it came out
It feels
1,000 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie is a slasher movie that came out 2 years before Halloween, and just the difference in quality is
2 years.
absurd.
Astronomical.
2 years before. This is fucking
Yeah.
unacceptable, dude.
This is millennia before Halloween in terms of quality.
And,
Okay.
and 2 years after Black Christmas.
Jesus. Oh my
God
god, I
damn.
forgot about that.
I need to know. Nolan, I need to know.
What must you know, Brian?
What have
must
they?
you know?
What actually
What have they done?
happened? Like what?
Can I
like
say
what
one
did they
thing
do
before we start? Knife Trombone followed me into my dreams.
I cannot
Okay.
wait to talk about Knife
We
Yeah.
will talk about Knife Trombone in a minute, I hope, but I will let you boys know that I did have a dream about Knife Trombone that
Yeah,
night.
we will all have much to say about the great Knife Trombone of
A good
of
man, Knife
1972 or
Trombone.
whatever.
Let me just talk about a little, like, generally about the history. So I think, as I said in the intro, this is loosely based on the Texarkana Moonlight murders, and they have an interesting effect in terms of historically how we talk to our children, how we talk to high school kids about premarital sex and stuff. So these incidents are often, like, cited as the origin of, like, urban legends that warn against like premarital sex and, like, going out and having sex in your car, and
Because you'll get murdered with a trombone.
because
Yeah.
you'll get murdered with a trombone.
that
Well, actually,
knife
makes
like,
sense.
there's like I believe there's an urban legend about, like, the guy with a hook for a hand that comes
Oh,
out
yeah.
of the woods.
Yes.
And- yeah.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is like kind of the source of that, actually.
Interesting.
So, I don't really necessarily know how. Another little piece of interesting tidbit before we get into the movie: every October, the Texarkana Parks and Recreation Department hosts a drive-in screening of this film at Spring Lake Park, which is a location of one of the murders, and this has incited some controversy from law enforcement.
Has
fearing
it?
How's it now?
fearing that it could inspire recreations of the crimes. And a sequel was released in 2014 where a copycat is inspired by one of the yearly screenings of the 1976 film.
What the fuck?
The thing about that is I can't imagine anybody watching this movie for fun.
True.
Yeah.
Because it's not a fun
What's-
movie to watch. But the thing is, you look at the comments on the YouTube video, because we watched this on YouTube, fun fact. A lot of people love this movie.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is so. Nolan, is this a? It's clearly a cult classic, I guess. But is this generally regarded to be a stepping stone in horror, or like what's
Some
the
people
general
would say
perception
yes.
of this?
Some people would say yes. There's a really good video essay on it by a guy named Ryan Hollinger on YouTube that I would say everyone should go look at. But this movie definitely gets a lot more praise and a lot more distinction than it deserves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Because there are moments that are good. Like, the first couple minutes of the movie, I was like, dang, this is good. Like,
Yeah,
it's cheesy, but it's fun. And, like,
Yeah.
it's exciting. And it's a little scary. But then, like...
Yeah, I mean that first
it
murder,
just
the first
drags
murder,
on
like
and
the way
on
that
and
their
on.
screams, the way that they, like, start screaming and they don't stop screaming while it's
Yeah.
like it's ridiculous, but it's obviously the human sound of a scream is really unnerving, and so
it's like
it makes that
5
first-
minutes. It's like
5
5 minutes of
straight
just
this
sitting
woman
and
just
screaming.
Now, both of those characters are absolutely useless, and they don't do anything to
Yes.
stop their fate from happening.
And see, I
But-
think that's one of the things that's offensive to me about this is that, and we'll see like from what you'll tell us of like how accurate this is to like the murders and stuff. But is the number of murders the same? Like
The numbers are the same.
okay,
And
as what happened in real life.
The very general scenarios are similar.
And
Okay.
pretty much every cause of death is the same except for knife trombone.
We will get to Knife Trombone.
We will get to Knife Trombone.
But-
Trust me, I have much to say about Knife Trombone.
But the fact that it's roughly real murder scenarios that happened to real people who died,
Yeah.
and the fact that they've turned fictionalizations of those people into useless idiots.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Useless idiots that sit in the car
sure.
and scream.
And like it's already morally rocky terrain that they've done this at all. But to do it and to be so disrespectful to these were real people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this person before she died just sat and screamed and didn't think that she could just open the fucking car door and run away.
Yeah,
Right.
It's
and
insane.
there is like when we get into details of how these things actually happened, it makes the movie incredibly disrespectful because there is evidence that these people like actually fought for their lives. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Nobody fights back in this
Yeah.
movie.
Well, I mean, because a bunch of these people, at least in the film, like there's like a first phase where they get attacked, and then even though they're hopelessly incompetent, the killer is more so. So they manage to escape almost
Right,
every
he's
time.
a terrible killer.
And then like they eventually get caught up to and caught again and either killed or not. And it's like it's clearly they're taking pains to make these people idiots because
Yeah,
clearly
for
in
sure.
real life they managed to fight off a killer, escape. Like it's god.
Yeah.
Our killer also
more-
has incredible asthma.
Yeah, you'd hear him coming from a mile away
He
because
breathes
he's
so
breathing.
loud in this.
I was a
like
little
I don't
worried
know if
about
it's something wrong with the mix or something because he's even louder than the dialogue half the time. He's just breathing so loud.
There's a bit where he approaches a car to attack some. I think they're teenagers in it, but the car starts driving before he can get there, so he jumps onto the side of the car, and he's like hanging onto the side of the car as it's like speeding around, and he's breathing so heavily like he's having an asthma attack, and I was like, oh my god, this guy's gonna have a heart attack.
Wasn't
Like, I
was that the first one? That
No,
was
it's the
that's
second one.
like the
It's-
Oh,
third
it's the
one.
second one.
the third
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Like I
it's the
was
third
worried
one, 'cause
about
that
him.
one's
I was,
knife trombone.
I was worried he was gonna like hurt himself.
One thing on the distinctions of this movie before we move on to like the first main point of interest in the film. There is they clearly were working out the kinks in this genre because there's a very clear line between Psycho to Black Christmas to Halloween
Yeah.
in terms of slasher movies. And then you've got this weird sore thumb boys sitting in the middle that it was just like, well, that's not the direction we should be taking.
Yeah,
you know?
I would call it derivative of Halloween if it didn't come out first. It's
Yeah.
I guess it seems kind of specifically derivative of Black Christmas, like with the heavy breathing and the light use of first person creep up shots and
Well, here's one interesting influence that it did have. The bag, like his mask, the bag over the face, is like that was the direct inspiration for Jason, his look in the
Yeah.
second Friday the 13th movie.
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's fun.
So quick, just catching you up in the movie. First thing that happens is the people get attacked in the car. The girl survives. She's severely wounded on the side of the road, and then the sheriff show up, and the ambulance shows up, and they're like, "Okay, there's a guy on the loose. Will he strike again?"
He does.
Question
He strikes
mark.
many
Right.
more times.
And
does.
yes, he does strike again.
Doesn't the killer, when he like shows up in the first murder, like show up and like open up the hood of the car or something and like
Yeah.
yeah. He like cuts off
He
the
pops
engine.
the hood open and like takes something out of the engine, and then they try to start the car over and over and over again, and the engine won't turn over.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they just sit there with the doors unlocked, just
Yes.
staring at it.
Screaming.
All three of them are just staring at each other for a while.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a turn-based RPG. Like we're waiting for them to like select their moves.
They were playing D&D in real life.
That's exactly true. So the real events. So some specific things that the movie does. It either skip. It's either so it doesn't skip the first event, but for some reason changes the date. It does all the other dates the same, which is weird. But it changed the date for the first one, and so I've got a little blurb about what actually happened. This was February 22nd, 1946, at about 11:45 p.m. Jimmy Hollis, 25, and his girlfriend Mary Jean LeRae parked on a lover's lane after having seen a movie. About 10 minutes later, a man wearing a white cloth mask with 2 holes cut out for eyes appeared at the driver's side door. The man pointed a flashlight into the vehicle. He asked the two to exit the car, saying, "I don't want to kill you, fella, so do what I say." They both exited the car. Hollis was ordered to pull down his pants, and he was struck over the head with a gun twice. After he complied, this fractured his skull. LeRae, thinking that they were being robbed, showed Hollis's wallet and showed it to be empty. She was struck with a blunt object and was told to run. The assailant later caught up to her and assaulted her with his gun. Hollis was able to flag down a passing car, and the two survived. Law enforcement repeatedly challenged their account, specifically LeRae's, saying that they were trying to cover for the killer.
What?
Which makes no sense.
They were trying to cover for the killer?
Right. For some reason, law enforcement believed that they were lying about knowing the identity of the man because they wanted to cover for him.
Why?
Why would you want to cover for a man who just beat you with a gun when your pants pulled down?
Also, okay, look, obviously I'm not going to make fun of the actual events. I am going to make fun of the people who dubbed him the Phantom, because he was just a dude wearing a sheet. So he was not sneaky.
Here's another thing.
He talked to them.
Here's another cool thing. So the Paramount Theater, which you see in the movie, was also a thing in Texarkana at the time. Mm-hmm. And there was a movie there called The Phantom Speaks that was playing at the time. Yeah,
I've fallen directly into their trap.
You fell into their trap. Fucking 75 years later.
Got me again, Texarkana Police Department.
Yeah, so that's what happened. And the thing about it is translating that, it's like the opening scene of Zodiac, where it's translated completely accurately, and you end up with a more interesting movie, but there's enough in common between this and the movie to where you're like, well, it's clearly based on it, but it's just not interesting.
It's just awkward.
Yeah. Well, and this feels they clearly took the less interesting route, because even that is more interesting, like that he's a person who talked to them.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And the fact that his name comes from that movie and it's the Phantom that's
and also,
I'm not going to say it's cool, but that's interesting.
It is interesting.
And this is not interesting.
Yeah.
And the way that law enforcement thinks that they were covering for him, like, that would be an interesting plot line to follow, of like why you would think that and how they would investigate that and things.
Yeah, because it's the opposite in the movie. It's
cops be useless.
There's a cop. Well, in the movie, there's a cop who has like precognition vision, where he's like, he will attack again. I have a feeling in my gut it's going to happen again, when there's no evidence to support that yet. So it's the exact flip.
I texted y'all this, and he kind of incriminates himself in the sense of like, yeah, I think it's going to happen again tonight.
I remember it specifically because I thought it was so weird that the older guy never shows up again. It's like he precogged that there's more stuff's going to happen, and then he just got the fuck out of there.
Well, here's another thing, is that he may have shown up again, but this is just a bunch of like middle-aged white guys that all look exactly the same.
Dear listener, I have a problem. There are no characters in this movie.
Yeah, there is not a single character. Yeah.
And, like, I already have trouble in movies with a lot of old white men. Like, there are some classic movies that I find hard to follow because there's so many, like, middle-aged white guys in them that I can't tell who is who. I have trouble with that for some reason. And this was not any easier because they also didn't have any defining character traits.
Yeah, I don't usually have that problem, but this movie, like, damn, there are a lot of like balding elderly white people. Like it's all just the same guy.
And it's also like it is a massive disservice, and I think an insult to the people that were actually involved with the story, that none of the victims are actually people, and none of the investigators are actually people.
We don't really learn any names except for like one guy who's kind of stupid.
Oh yeah, the only guy
or something.
Yeah, the only guy who the movie spends any considerable time with is Sparkplug, who is played by the director, who's like a doofy Don Knotts like comedy police officer who is totally out of place in what this movie should be.
Can we talk about the music?
Yeah, let's talk about the music.
It's bad, for one.
So the music, I said, crosses genres in a way that I did not anticipate. It's bad. It has no sense of direction. I called it, I think, military polka.
Yeah,
at one point.
There's a fair amount of military polka. There's a lot of periods in this movie where they kind of forget it's a horror movie for a while, and they think that it's like Route 66 or like it's some kind of 60s comedy series.
It's fucking the Andy Griffith Show.
And it's I'm very specifically, and it's just this doofy cop who's like running around. He's like, oh, where are the keys to the car? Oh no, I gotta drive around the hotshot detective. Oh, I gotta find the keys. And it's just like music in the background.
But
this is not the story to have the Andy Griffith side plot.
Yeah, because it's real. These people are dead.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man.
And this is 30 years. This is 30 years after it happened.
There's
That's
also
so
like
soon.
weird, sentimentally romantic toned score that plays in times that it absolutely shouldn't. Usually when somebody's about to die.
Yeah, and during the worst instance of it, when the last murder or the last victim is escaping and she's like running through the streets and she kind of collapses and you're not sure if she's alive or not. She's just laying on the ground. And then this almost soaring romantic music is playing, but it's playing quietly enough that it might be diegetic, like it might be happening.
It's very confusing.
Coming from a house
and
or
it's
something.
also like, was that supposed to be inspiring? You know?
No, the music feels embarrassed that it's there. The music's like, look, I know I'm not supposed to be here.
Right.
I'm just gonna play real quiet in the corner and just don't worry about it.
They told me to be here. I'm under contract. I can't leave, but I'll make my presence as small as possible.
I'm with you. I'm just saying. I'm with you. So, yeah.
The sheriff is patrolling around and finds this guy in his girlfriend's parked car, and nobody's there. And he hears gunshots like away, but it's like day for night, so everything looks really weird.
It's the worst day for night I've ever seen.
The day for night was actively, vindictively attacking me.
It was aggressive.
It was like it got more bold as the movie went on. Like if they would just
and
show full-on
like
shots
raining,
of the sky. Yeah.
But like the sky is still very much blue in daytime.
Yeah. It's literally just like a dark blue filter over the image.
The main issue with it is the fact that all of the light in the scenes is completely hard light, and it should all be soft.
It's terrible.
Well, also the fact that you can see the fucking sky. They might as well have been trying to convince me they were underwater. Like it's the same.
That's what it looked like.
No different.
So the sheriff is like inspecting the car, hears the gunshots, goes into the woods, finds the two people dead, and then the killer gets into the parked car that he was just inspecting and drives away.
This is right after the police guys are like, I think it's gonna happen again.
Yeah. It's on March 24th, which is my birthday.
Also, question about that. So they changed that date. You said, Noland?
The first
kill. So, but it's a very specific plot point in the movie that every 21 days another killing happens.
Exactly. They changed it only for that reason.
Just so they could say
it wasn't actually like that?
Just because they wanted it to be every 3 weeks.
Oh my god. Why?
Yeah. I don't know.
So dumb.
They wanted some sort of pattern for funsies.
Right. Yeah.
So then they like start to know him as the Phantom. They don't know his motive, and then the town begins to dread sundown. Yes. There's a narrator over this stuff, and like the narration is so funny to me because he's just stating the obvious after it's already happened.
It's really good. There's a bit where he's like, you had to wonder if every person living in the town was looking out as the sun went down and wondering, am I or someone I know next?
And it's like,
or perhaps a mutual friend of someone I know.
Yes, Mr.
Or perhaps
narrator.
my second cousin. Is he next? I don't know.
It's like, yes, narrator man. There's a serial killer out. That's what everyone's thinking.
Yeah. So then everybody's like demanding protection from the police, and they're like, we don't know.
Again, missing some of the best, most interesting stuff from the actual story in terms of people being desperate for protection. Like, everyone went and bought up guns. Like, that's true. Yeah. Everyone was begging the police for protection. Another interesting thing is a bunch of people like filled up this hotel in the middle of the town called the Grim, and everyone just like piled into one place because they felt like they were going to be safer together in numbers.
Yeah.
And like
That's
that's
fascinating.
amazing. Like that is like
That's
really
kinda
great
cool.
food for a movie. And
The
they
hotel
don't
was called the
do anything with
Grim.
it.
That's
Right,
so,
yeah. I don't know whose
That's
idea it was to name that hotel the
That's
Grim.
such a terrible name for a hotel, but a great name for this hotel.
It's like, guys,
Oh, yeah.
we'll all be safe at the Grim.
The Grim.
Everyone gather at the Grim.
It's like Harry Potter. You have the Grim.
Yeah.
All right, so March 24th, 1946. Richard L. Griffin, 29, and his girlfriend Polly Ann Moore, 17, 1940s dating culture, y'all, were found dead in his
Yikes.
1941 Oldsmobile between 8:30 and 9 a.m. by a passing motorist. The car was parked on a lover's lane. Griffin was found between the front seats with both pockets turned out. Moore was found face down in the back seat. There is evidence that she was murdered on a blanket in front of the car, however. Griffin was shot twice while still in the car. Both had been shot once in the back of the head, and both were fully clothed. There also was blood outside the car, indicating that they both may have been murdered and put back into the vehicle. And a .32 Colt cartridge was found. It was rumored that a sexual assault occurred in this incident, but this is false.
So the killer was interested in money, like the real killer.
Yes.
It seems so because pockets turned out. Lorraine in the first incident showed the wallet. Was asked to show the wallet. You know,
Which is interesting because that's completely ignored in the movie. I guess there's a lot of things that seem like they're designed to make this killer feel more like an insane serial killer and more regimented than he actually was.
Right. Yeah, and I mean they also for some reason bring in criminal profiling into the movie, which is not something that even existed in 1946.
And
Yeah, they
didn't-
bring
It's probably
in a-
because it was an in vogue thing and that was coming out at the time, but
Yeah, they bring in a
did not
psychiatrist
exist nearly
to talk.
in the sophistication that they say that it does, you know?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also everything he says is stupid.
Yes.
Right. There's literally zero evidence that this man is working off to say that this guy was a sexual serial killer, which if you actually look at the original evidence, you actually could possibly say that, but
Right, but not the evidence that we're given in
In
the
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 movie does not present
it
any of that.
literally feels like he's killing just because.
yeah.
Like, there's no money motivation, there's no sexual motivation, there's no, like, vindictive societal motivation. It's just like,
Which
murder
if you're
time.
if you're doing a Halloween style movie, then just do that.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and they also
The thing
say
is, the
that
killer's
the
not
other
even that scary.
Yeah, he's not
Right.
that scary. And the other thing that the psychiatrist says is that he is highly intelligent, which
He's not
by
evident.
which by movie standards he is not. And
He is not.
And I think putting that on him is also such a weird, like it's this weird sense of almost glorifying this actual real life murderer.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Like, why do that? You know?
Yeah. No, I 100% agree.
So the sheriff says to, like, his little sidekick buddy that on April 14th, 21 more days later, he believes that the killer is gonna strike again. So he wants to set up decoys, which is, like, the cops posing as couples in parked cars, but it's like half the cops are dressed up as women, and it feels very transphobic.
Oh, it's definitely transphobic, and it's also there's a prolonged sexual assault joke that
Yeah.
lasts like
Yeah.
5 minutes and ends on a very distressing cut.
Deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So that's fun. Love this movie.
This is a rough one to talk about, you guys, because it's both boring and offensive, but it's also like it gets under your skin just enough that you're like kind of disgusted by it, you know?
Ew.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe this movie, is ew.
Yeah, it's a vague
I'm gonna just touch on the
fun.
transphobic stuff because that actually happened.
I mean,
They
that
that's
did
doesn't
also-
surprise me. That was
Yeah.
kind of a thing that used to be, like, if you were doing a sting operation, instead of just getting women, the cops would dress up like women.
Yeah. And it's,
Just hire a woman actress.
Which is, there's a difference between being, like, representative of the time and being unnecessarily gross.
Yeah, the fact that they had a prolonged scene where they were A, making fun of it, and B, making a sexual assault joke, it's like, none of this is in good taste.
And that's also, it's the worst instance of the fact that this movie has a sense of humor, just an awful one.
It's a bad
where
sense of humor.
It doesn't ever tell a joke. The closest it does is like Duke Boys like driving into a creek.
Right.
Like that's the closest to attempting actual humor. The rest is just being mean.
Which
Yeah.
in an entirely different movie maybe could have been funny, but it is so out of place in this one.
Yeah, like if in the middle of 7 they accidentally drive into a creek,
Right.
there you got something
exactly
maybe. But in this you do not. Yeah.
So the high school prom is also going on, and there's police officers nearby, and these two kids leave. Peggy and Roy, I think. I wrote their names down. They're the only ones that I actually got names for. So the guy who sucks, her boyfriend sucks so much,
He's terrible.
is like, we should park at our favorite spot, and his girlfriend's like, I actually kind of want to go home because there's like a murderer who murders people who park in their cars and do exactly what you're suggesting that we're about to do.
Yeah. And then
he does it anyway. He's like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, all of these boyfriends suck. I would hate to be any surviving relatives of the real men who they're based on who died or didn't or came close to dying.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
the second incident, the man was 29 and the girlfriend was 17,
That makes me want
Okay,
to
never
throw
mind
up.
then.
which is gross.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
So they're like falling asleep, and then Peggy wakes up, and it's like 2:40 in the morning, and she's like, oh my god, like, we have to go home. What the hell are we doing? And he tries to start the car and begins to drive away, and then the phantom guy is like chasing them and jumps onto their car. He's like wiggling around, he's breathing real hard, about to have a heart attack / asthma attack. He opens the door, which was for some reason not locked, and pulls the guy out of the car while they're moving, and then like the girl's trying to drive the car, and then somehow he chases her down and then ties her to a tree.
Yeah,
and
somehow
then,
she ends up out of the car.
yeah.
Yeah, whatever. It
Doesn't make
man.
any sense. The thing is, this is where we get to what haunted me in my sleep, Knife Trombone.
Right.
So Peggy played in the school band, and we saw that she had a trombone, and so she's tied to a tree, like her face facing the tree. And the killer picks up the trombone and plays a singular note, which
He went. Burp.
I like lost my shit. I was
God.
like, oh my god, even if I was about to be murdered, I would probably think that was funny.
And then this man.
This man straps a
God.
knife to the end of the trombone and puts it up to his face and acts as if he were playing it, but can't actually play it that well because a sack is on his face.
Yeah.
His embouchure is not going to be perfect. So he just like stabs her with the knife that's strapped to the trombone. I don't know. That didn't happen.
Yeah,
You explained it as well as you could.
He's aggressively not playing the trombone, even though he was clearly able to a second ago. He
like
can't make any sound.
Playing the trombone and just
And then he's like stabbing the thing into her every time he plays it. And okay, Nolan, real quick.
Yeah.
And this is a binary yes no situation.
Okay, I'll answer quickly.
Did that happen?
No.
Okay, so fuck this. Right? Because
This is
a
the
real
point in the
person.
movie where I
Right.
looked at your notes that you had sent about the actual crime, Nolan, and I was like, this can't have happened.
This is the most egregious glorification. Like, I think this and it's the most famous scene from the movie. Some
Yeah.
people
Of course it is.
Some
It would
people
be the most-
consider this scene
My
to be iconic.
mom knew
It would be
this
the most
scene.
famous scene from any movie. If you put this scene in anything, it would be the most famous scene.
My mom
But it's
somehow knew
horrible.
about this scene but had not seen this movie.
Yeah. A lot of people know
Yeah,
about
it's-
fucking Knife Trombone.
This is just the concept of taking a real woman's death and going,
Making
well, what
knife
if?
Wait till you hear what this kind of
Tell me.
what piece of history
Yeah,
this
go-
was adapted from. Okay.
Go ahead.
So April 13th, just had to change it one day. Okay. April 13th, 1946. At 1:30 a.m., Paul Martin, 17, picked up his friend, not girlfriend, his friend Betty Jo Booker, 15, from a weekly gig with her band, the Rhythmaires, at the VFW Club, Veterans from Foreign Wars. Booker was an alto saxophonist. Martin's body was found at 6:30 a.m. lying on the side of North Park Road. He had been shot 4 times, once through the nose, once through the left rib, a third time in the right hand, and then through the back of the neck. Blood trailed down and across the road, indicating that Martin attempted to flee his attacker. Additionally, the wound in his hand could indicate that Martin tried to put up a fight. Booker's body was not found until 11:30 a.m., and she was found 2 miles away from Martin, lying on her back, fully clothed, with her right hand in her pocket, which is odd. She had been shot twice, once in the chest and once in the face. The weapon was a .32 Colt pistol, the same as the previous double murder, and Paul Martin's car was parked in Spring Lake Park, about 3 miles from Booker's body and a mile and a half from his own. Spring Lake Park is where they host the screenings of this movie every October now.
I don't like that.
Okay.
That's tasteless.
God.
Yeah, so the trombone comes from the fact that in real life, Betty Jo Booker
Played a saxophone.
played the saxophone and was leaving a gig. That's where that came from.
I don't know why it makes me more angry that they didn't get her instrument right.
Yeah,
I understand. No, I
like,
understand.
Respect this woman who played the saxophone. Not
Like, there's
the
no.
trombone.
I mean, look. Okay, it is the least egregious of all of the egregious crimes involved in the trombone murder. But like, it is like it shows.
I think because you can tie it into the fact that they changed the instrument that this woman played in order to make what is essentially like a sick joke out of a murder.
It's kind of like a slapstick. Like, it feels like it should be in like a splatstick B horror movie that's like for fun
and not based on anything real.
Not based on something real.
I think that's the thing. This movie, if it wasn't capitalizing on a real tragedy, this movie would be a fucking D-list, nothing, slapstick horror comedy that was forgotten a week after it came out.
Yeah.
But they capitalized on these real people's deaths to create this cult status that is, frankly, disgusting to me.
Also, and you're right, Brian, like, respect this woman as a musician because she was clearly good enough of a saxophonist to play in a band that was playing gigs, you know?
Yeah.
Is the director of this movie still alive?
I doubt it.
Can I fight him personally?
Let me see if he's still alive.
He would be so old and he'd look exactly like Don Knotts. I would.
Dude, I'd still fight him. Doesn't
That's
matter
fair.
how old he is.
Let's see if Charles B. Pierce is still alive. I highly doubt it. Yeah, he dead as hell. He been dead for 10 years.
I should make a movie about his death and greatly exaggerate and change the details.
Kill him with a saxophone.
Yeah. Kill him by beating him to death with a saxophone. And this is, I think, and maybe the movie does it a little bit, but like clearly these two people really actively were trying to stop their murderer from murdering them. Like they clearly were running away from him. I don't know how that's kind of crazy how far they were from his car, how far they were from each other. Like, how does that happen, you know? But the second double murder really caused the city to go into a major panic. Like, this is when people started moving into that hotel, when people started buying up guns. And initially, the crimes were not connected, given that the concept of a serial killer was not really in vogue until the 70s. But when they discovered that the same type of gun, a .32 Colt pistol, was used during the March 24th and April 13th incidents, they figured out that, okay, this must be the same person.
Right.
A cool quote from a liquor store during this period of time. We fully understand the state of mind in which Texarkana is now gripped, and we are selling no liquor to persons who have already been drinking. We do not wish to add further to the troubles of the police. Any person who drinks whiskey at this time to get drunk and wander about the streets of Texarkana is further complicating the works of the police and is placing himself in grave danger of being shot by people whose nerves are on edge from the recent murders. This is not
I
the
thought
correct
that-
accent, but
what a-
whatever.
What a show of responsibility from. Why did I get like very strong COVID flashbacks from that? Where it's just like every press release being
No,
like,
it
we
makes
understand
sense.
that this has been a
Yeah.
rough year. Which is why we're making spicy donuts or whatever.
No, not the
Oh,
ghost pepper
God.
donut from Dunkin' Donuts.
So, in the movie, a bunch of people try to admit to the murders, and they're like, I killed 5 people. And they're like, no, you didn't. Like, straight up, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
And nobody really believes this dude, and they're like, this guy's just a nutcase and wants to be famous for murder for some reason.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think it's May 3rd. I put May 3 question mark. That this
21 days after the last one.
Yeah.
Which they got this one right.
Oh, great. So one time it was accurate.
Yeah.
No, twice. It was twice. It was accurate twice.
Oh, gotcha.
This woman is like going home from grocery shopping and is like followed by this guy, but like the only way you know that it's him is that like they've shown his shoes a couple times, and it's like, oh, here come the shoes.
Here come the old
Here
shoes,
come
man.
the shoes. Oh,
Here he comes.
he's wearing his killing
Oh,
shoes.
here I go killing again.
So she's home, and they live in like a pretty remote, like farmhousey type area.
Right.
And her husband's in the living room and is like chilling, and he like the Phantom guy shoots him twice. Helen doesn't hear anything except for the fact that the Phantom guy broke the window and is like, what happened, Floyd? And Floyd is like on the ground dead, and she's like, oh God. And then she runs to the phone, calls the police, and then she gets shot. And she like crawls out of the house, stumbles into a cornfield. It gets really muddy from here on. My notes.
Yeah, there's a really boring cornfield chase where
Yeah.
the killer's breathing so hard.
He's also like has a pickaxe or something. It's like, why?
Yeah, which
he
is
has
new,
a gun.
even though he
like
I always like look, I get that it's kind of an aesthetic thing where there's, killers in slasher movies that have some like interesting side like hand weapon.
Yeah.
But this dude clearly uses a gun most of the time. So I don't know why he only brings out his vanity weapons every once in a while.
It's trying. It
Yeah.
seems that the movie is trying to play into this, like, this man just enjoys killing to enjoy killing, which is
Yeah.
dumb.
Yeah.
So-
Which doesn't seem to necessarily be true.
Right.
no.
Yeah. No, definitely
She runs through the cornfield and like goes to his house and bangs on the door, like yelling for help, but her face is like bleeding. And she falls to the ground. And this is when we get that weird romantic music, and then like
Yeah.
the guy who owns the house like comes out with a shotgun and like helps her in. And then the killer runs away.
How much better would this scene have been if they had made this woman a character that we knew
Yeah, because she seems
Yeah,
like
I mean,
kind
it-
of a badass.
and she is in real life?
Why not make this? I mean, don't make this. But if you're going to, why not make it like a kind of mystery almost? But the mystery isn't who the killer is. It's which of the people in this small town is going to get targeted. Why not get to know all of them as a town? And then kind of we're seeing who's going to get singled out,
'Cause
as
then you would
opposed to
really
just introducing
feel-
people out of nowhere who are nobody,
Yeah.
and then we're expected to care about them.
Because then you would really feel the fact that, like, this is a really small town. Everybody knows everybody. So when somebody dies, it's like, oh, I knew that person no matter who you were in the town.
But we never see, they try to do that a little bit by
Not
just
really.
showing a lot of shots, well, they don't actually try, but by showing just a lot of shots of the town and like
Yes.
people walking around. But we never see any interaction. The only people we ever see interact are the police.
Yeah.
Parts of it are sort of played like it's a documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
So-
is
so-
really offensive
Doesn't
when
make
all of
any
this is
sense
so
also.
fucking inaccurate and
Yeah. So what were the circumstances of the last?
So
Attack.
this one's arguable whether it was actually the Phantom or not. But May 3rd, 1946, Virgil Starks, 37, and his wife Katie Starks, 36, were relaxing around 9 p.m. at their home about 10 miles northeast of Texarkana. Katie had given Virgil a heating pad for his injured back. Katie was lying in their bedroom in her nightgown when she heard what she thought was breaking glass. The sounds, in fact, were 2 gunshots fired through the window of her home. killing Virgil in his armchair. She lifted his head, saw blood, and attempted to contact the police. She was shot twice in the face from the same window. One bullet entered her right cheek and exited her left ear, and the other went just below her lip, shattering multiple teeth and lodging under her tongue. She got a pistol from the living room, but couldn't see due to her own blood, and she managed to run across the street to her brother-in-law and sister's house, and they weren't home. So then up the street to her neighbor's home, and she survived.
So that's actually like the closest one. Because
yeah, it's like it's close.
In the
terms
movie,
of
she
like,
gets shot through the cheek, like very specifically.
right, and that's where it's like slavish to the actual events. To a fault because we don't know who she is.
Yeah.
Like,
And also, like, her actions in the actual movie are seemingly more panicked and confused than her actions in real life were.
Right.
She doesn't go for a weapon in the movie, and she just hides in a field for a while in the movie, and it.
Right.
Yeah, so they still mess it up, even when they're being slavish to it.
Right. In real life, she actually was doing very methodical things to try to save herself,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the end of the movie doesn't matter. They like try to find him and then they don't find him, and then like the film is premiering and you see like the shoes and it's like, oh no, he's still out there. And
Wait, I do want to be mad about this too, though, a little bit, because they do find him out of nowhere. They find him just standing on a cliff.
He's just like sitting.
Then they chase him. He jumps in front of a train. The train passes, and they lose him. They do manage to shoot him through the train. I get that this movie thought that it needed a climax that the real events didn't have, so they just invented one. But, like, if the real events aren't what you want them to be, this is so far removed that if they just removed all of the Texarkana stuff, it could just be a totally separate movie. Like, it's not about these events, you know?
Right, yeah. They should have just taken very loose inspiration and then written their own fucking movie.
Yeah.
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 And not say that these are exactly the events that happened and no details have been changed except for the names, which is
But
the
you know
opening
why
of
they
this
did
movie.
that?
Why?
To get some fucking butts and seats,
Yeah,
like
true.
to
Yep,
make
yep,
some
yep.
money.
Yep.
This wouldn't have
so-
been so popular if people weren't like, this is exactly what happened. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think the wrap up for this movie is probably pretty short. It's the worst.
Fuck this movie.
It's the worst.
Worst of the worst, for sure.
Yeah.
Is 0
Drunk
drunks
out of
out of
five?
5.
0 drunk out of 5.
Don't
don't
watch
watch
it. Just don't. We're putting a ban on this movie.
Do
Don't
not
watch
watch.
this
If it
one.
wasn't based on a true story, maybe you could get absolutely trashed and enjoy it. But it is based on it's quote unquote
I
based
have
on
a
a true story.
question for y'all.
Yes.
Do you think this is the worst movie we've watched?
Morally, yes.
Definitely morally.
But what about just watchability wise?
It might be for me, honestly. I don't know what can top it. I mean, Dracula AD at least has some great goofs.
No, we can laugh. You
This
can
is
really
just
laugh at Dracula AD.
Yeah.
I think I came out of Halloween 3 more like infuriated with what had happened to the movie in the middle of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I do think this
But there's
is
still
I
enough.
think this is probably the worst movie.
I think this is the worst just in terms of boringness.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think it's the least enjoyable viewing experience I had, plus it's morally reprehensible. So I think that really takes it right there.
All right, so please, if you would, dear listener, can you rate us on iTunes, give us a follow on Spotify, and check out our YouTube channel where Brian slaves over edits of our podcast, and they look dope.
Oh god. Oh no, I'm gonna have to fucking look at this movie again to get the... Oh man.
That's a fun one for you,
Some
bud.
people better watch this one. This is gonna be a slog.
It's gonna be a slog.
We're gonna start putting out clips and bonus content on that YouTube channel as well, so you might want to subscribe.
Hit the subscribe button!
We also put out clips on our Instagram at Ghoul School Pod, and you can send us an email with a suggestion or just, if you want to say hello at ghoulschoolofficial@gmail.com.
Choke the life out of the like button and
Guys.
leave some comments.
Oh my god.
Guys, this movie was supposed to pep me up, goddammit.
It didn't.
Now I'm lower than ever before.
But
even
you'll be
more
pepped
sad.
up next week when we watch a fun monster movie.
I will be. I'm excited for
Yay.
that one.
I'm so
God, get back
excited.
into
We'll
the
see you
monsters.
next week, dear listener. I love you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I feel like I have to take a shower after that one. Even demons have to draw a line somewhere. But join us again next Friday for another lesson in terror.